What up, B Squad? It is me, JB, and we are here today, you guys, with a brand new review for Tyler Perry's Sistas Season 7, episode number 9, I believe, you guys. And this episode was titled Three's a Crowd. Now, I will tell you guys that this is the second time I'm recording this video, and I am a little on the PISSED side. Now, before we go ahead and jump into it, if you guys are watching this video or any other video on the channel and you guys aren't subscribed yet, then I need you guys to do me a solid favor and stop taking me out on this date and then having me pay for it at the end of it. You guys know the routine. You can do me that favor by liking the video, subscribing to the channel, turning on your post notifications, and sharing the video, you guys. And with that out of the way, without further ado, let's go ahead and discuss this episode of Sistas, shall we? All right, you guys, so this episode, it opens up and we pick up with Karen. So Karen is walking out of getting the sonogram done, right? And, you know, getting the amniocentesis, and Zach is there. So she lets Zach know that they are, well, she's having twins, right? So Zach is all happy and ecstatic, talking about, you know, little Zachariah and Zackeisha. And she was like, who? And I was actually with her. I was like, those are some ugly, Zackeisha is an ugly ass name, but okay, Zach. And the thing that I was thinking about with Zach is like, Zach, you're getting all excited about this and you still don't know that these are your kids. Like I've gave my theory, you guys. I think that one is Zach's, one is Aaron's. So she showed him the sonogram, and then Fatima came in. When Fatima came into the room, Zach was all happy and ecstatic and telling Fatima, we having twins. We having twins. And I was like, Zach, please read the room. Look at Fatima's face. Fatima's face just sunk. I was like, oh God, Zach, here we go. Because he was just pushing the picture in her face. I was like, Zach, please stop. Please stop. Please stop. And Fatima was looking at the picture. I thought for a second Fatima was thinking, something ain't right here. But we'll talk about it later. Now, moving over to Sabrina. So we see Sabrina, and Sabrina's on the phone talking to Rich. And I guess she had text Rich, and Rich didn't respond to her. And so he told her that, you know, he was busy, right? And so then she told him about hanging out with Danny, and, you know, she and Danny saying that they would be going on a double date with Tony and with Rich. And so Rich was like, okay, cool. And then we'll pause here and we'll move forward, you guys. All right, you guys. So next up, we got Karen. So Karen is on the phone, and Karen called up Andy, right? She's telling Andy that she has something to tell her. So she's like, I need you and the girls to come over. And so Andy was like, okay, cool. Once I get off work, I'll come over. Meanwhile, Andy got a call on her phone at the desk, and it was a receptionist letting her know that Penelope was there. So she hung up the phone with Karen, and so the receptionist let Penelope in, right? So Penelope is coming in, and she's talking about how, you know, she's confused and scared for her child, right? So Andy is telling her, like, okay, Penelope, at this point, like, you got to get far, far, far away from Gary and basically never look back, right? And so then we see Gary. So Gary is with Miss Marie, and Marie is looking at Gary and asking him, like, so why did you call me down here, right? And so she's like, I'm not going to invest with you, Gary, because I guess somebody else had previously invested with Gary and they lost all their money. And I was like, well, if 2 + 2 ain't equaling 4, huh? Is it to your sis? If the people that previously invested with Gary, they've lost all their money, but Gary still has money, then I would be like, this smells like a Ponzi scheme. But okay, maybe not, right? So Gary is telling, what's her name again? Marie, that he wants to warn her about Andy. Now, we move over to Pam at the salon, right? Pam and her bad acting, they are doing, you know, she's doing her social media influencing, right? And so Karen is like, where did you put those products at, Pam? She said, they're in the supply closet. And she was like, I didn't tell you to put them there. She's like, well, you told me to put them somewhere, and that somewhere I was like, now Karen, you have to be specific with Pam, right? So Ms. Lisa came down, and so Karen informed Ms. Lisa that she's having twins, and Ms. Lisa is ecstatic about the fact that Karen is having twins. Now we'll pause here and we'll move forward. All right, you guys. So next up, we got Maurice. Maurice is on the phone with Grayson, right? And Maurice is blushing. So Maurice and Grayson are going to be having a date with each other. And so Grayson asked Maurice, like, what kind of wine do you want me to bring? Do you want me to bring white wine or red wine? He said, yes. He was like, which one, Maurice? He said, white or red? He said, yes. He says, oh, okay, so I'll bring both. I'll get one of both. He said, exactly. Those are my favorite colors, red and white. Now, he's on the phone with, like I said, he's still on the phone. He hangs up with him. And at one point, Sabrina called him, right? So Sabrina had called to check up on him. I might have got that out of order, but I know Sabrina at one point called to check up on him, right? And Maurice is telling Sabrina how, him and Grayson, they've made up with each other. And while they're on the phone, Sabrina is letting, this scene right here kind of pissed me off. When Sabrina was talking to Maurice, she told him that she was at the hospital and she saw Karen there. I was like, why are you giving out Karen's information to Maurice? Is she friends with Maurice like that? And so while she's on the phone rings and it's Karen on the other line asking her to come over. She's, Karen is letting her know, like, hey, Andy and Danny, they're going to be coming over about, 6:30 or so. So, and she said, okay, so I'll be over about that time. Like, I didn't like that. I truly didn't. Now, we'll move back over to Gary real quick. So, remember, I told you Gary is trying to warn Marie against Andy. So, she asked him, why is that of any of your concern? I was like, hey, man, I like Ms. Marie. So, Gary wants to tell Marie that Andy isn't suitable to represent her. She's shady, she's untrustworthy, she's amoral. It's a slew of other things that he was trying to paint Andy as, right? So he then tells her that she slept with one of the partners. And I was like, what does her sleeping with one of the partners have to do with Marie's case, right? If Andy is one of the best attorneys, then who she sleeps with in her personal life and got no hindrance on Marie's divorce as long as she's not sleeping with her husband or her husband, the judge, anybody, or opposing counsel. As long as she's not doing anything that would jeopardize her case, I don't see why you're bringing up Andy's personal life. But neither here nor there, right? He also let her know that Andy's a part of an FBI investigation. So then Gary wants to go one step further and try to say that Marie caught this. He said when he was going through the divorce with his wife, she said, don't you mean your ex-wife? I was like, exactly. Jasmine's supposed to be your ex-wife. But he says that Andy seduced him. And Marie was like, now Gary, oh, simple-minded Gary. She was like, before I even went to Andrea Barnes, I did my due diligence on her. I did my research on her. And the interesting thing that I found out was that you were the one that was behind that FBI investigation. And also, when it comes down to you, you're the one that paid for her condo and her Rolls Royce, right? So whatever Miss Barnes is doing, she must be doing a damn good job at it. I was like, amen, 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 right? So Marie put Gary in his place, like, you are a little fish, basically swimming in a big pond, and don't go too deep because you might get, you might just, sink on down. And I was like, ooh, I really like her. And then she called him. I'm not going to use the words that I remember the exact words that she said, but basically it's a jilted. She's calling him a jilted lover. I was like, come on, Ms. Marie. Come on, Ms. Marie. Now we move back over to Andy and Penelope, right? So Andy is telling Penelope about some of the things that she found with Gary, one in particular, right? So there was this girl, there was his high school sweetheart, right? And they went to their junior prom, and essentially the girl never went back home. And So Penelope was like, so what did Gary say? And Andy was like, well, Gary says that, she got drunk with her friends. He didn't want her to drink. And so he just left. And so she's like, well, what did the friends say? And so the friends say that they saw Gary and his ex-girlfriend, they were arguing with each other, but they never saw her leave. And she said they never found a body either, right? She said no. And so she was like, well, and she was like, you're smart, Andy. And like, how did we not know this? And like Andy said, Gary's like the devil. Gary is showing you, Gary has basically shown you ladies the side that he wants you to see. And it is what it, you guys fell for it, right? So then Andy tells her that she has a plan to basically bring him down, right? And she's also telling Penelope that she wants to get her and her baby away from Gary where he won't be able to find them. So she tells her, like, you need to go home, pack some things, and put them away bit by bit. And I was like, I don't think Penelope gonna be around that much longer, or that baby. Hate to say it, but I don't see it. I don't see it. Now let's pause here and move forward, you guys. Now, we move over to the girls are at Karen's place, right? So Danny and Sabrina were on time. Andy was late. And, Danny's asking for something to drink. And Sabrina's like, why do you think that she would have something to drink? And she was like, because I like to drink. So Andy finally showed up and Karen said that she has something to tell them. So Danny was like, let me guess, Zach ain't the pappy, right? She was like, that's not it, Danny. So they were like, okay, so what is it, Karen? She said, I'm having twins. So Andy and Sabrina were happy, right? They're going to be aunties to twins. Danny's over here like, girl, really? Danny was like, Karen, that could have been a text message. I was like, Danny, that one we agree about, right? Moving back over to Zach, you guys. Zach is at home and Zach is looking at strollers and all this stuff. And I was like, Zach, you still don't know that these are your children. And like I've said, like I've already said, I literally believe that one of them might be his and the other one might be Aaron's. And Fatima came in and, told him that they need to talk about this. And he's like, we're going to be good, Fatima. Like, we're good. And I was like, Zach, you're not even thinking about how this impacts Fatima, right? You're not thinking about the fact that you guys already have Michael and then now Karen's having twins. You guys were just expecting to have 2 children. Now it's potentially 3. And I know that she is currently pregnant on Zatima, but I don't know what the timeline is for Zatima as compared to Sistas, because it'll be 4 kids at that point. My God, today, right? So Fatima ended up leaving because she just said that this is too much. And I agree with Fatima. It is a lot. It is a lot. I still want them to go do another DNA test on Michael, because I really do feel like Hayden got, like, I know, now I watched season 1 of Zatima, right? And I saw Fatima when she did the swab of the baby. But I still feel like somebody got to that DNA test. But you guys can tell me what you think in the comments below, you guys. Now, we move over to Maurice and Grayson, right? So they're having their dinner. And so Grayson is talking to Maurice about his website that he has, right? And Grayson is asking Maurice, is that something that he plans to do long term? Because Grayson isn't really comfortable with being in a relationship with someone, even though that is how he met Maurice. But he's like, I don't really know about it because I don't want other people to see what's mine. And Maurice's like, what's yours? He was like, yeah. So Maurice's thing is he's basically just waiting for Sabrina to get, the branch manager position. So hopefully he can get his job back, right? But he was like, you know what? I do got, I got 6 months worth of money. So he would be good. And Grace was like, wait a minute, 6 months. I was like, damn, 6 months. I always think about that when there are people who, I know that there are some couples who do that kind of thing together, right? But then I always wonder, how is it for a person who was doing it before they got into a relationship and then their partner finds out? I'm always curious about that. I'm always curious about that. But hey, like people who are strippers, any kind of sex work, right? I always wonder that. But let's pause here, you guys, and wrap up the episode. All right, you guys. So Danny and Sabrina them all had left, right? And so remember, they're going on a double date. At first, I was confused why Danny was sitting by herself when she and Sabrina left, but Sabrina went to go pick up Rich because Rich's car got towed, right? So they sat down for dinner, and when they were sitting down for dinner, I was looking at it, I was like, these pairings, they need to be the other way around, right? Because what's his name is talking about his kids. Now, actually, before we get to that part, Danny was sitting by herself, right? And Fatima came in, and Fatima sat down with Danny, and they were talking about the things with the men, right? And Danny was talking about how, because Tony's ex-wife is deployed, he has the kids with him, and Danny, we all know Danny doesn't at this point want to be a mother, right? And so she's talking about that, and then Fatima's talking about this stuff with Karen, and she's like, yeah, Karen, and Dan was like, yeah, Karen told us y'all having twins, right? And so ultimately they both said to each other that, you guys, Fatima told Danny to talk to Tony about his situation, and Danny told Fatima to talk to Zach about their situation, because Fatima's whole thing is that she feels like Zach didn't validate her feelings. He didn't consider her feelings, which he absolutely 100% did not consider her feelings, right? So she left, and then Tony and Sabrina, he was gushing over his kids, and she was gushing over the picture of his kids. And you guys know I don't see it for creepy Tony, but I was looking at that scene, and I was like, ooh, Tony and Sabrina, they're more of a match, because Sabrina wants kids, and I think he wants kids as well. And then Rich and Danny were just sitting there like, what the fuck they talking about these kids for, right? And I was like, oh, and those two don't want kids. So they had dinner, and then they ended up leaving, and Danny and the creepy Tony, they went back to the crib, and they did they were doing the nasty, right? And so we end the episode with Gary, right? Actually, before we get to Gary, let's talk about Zach and Fatima. So Fatima got back home with Zach, and she apologized for just leaving out earlier. But she did tell Zach that you didn't consider my feelings, and Zach, he agreed with her, right? And he told her, because he's like, we're jumping the gun. And agree, you're jumping the gun because you don't know at this particular moment if you are the father of Karen's twins. So we're going a little bit too fast, right? So let's kind of pump the brakes. Now, let's talk about this raggedy bitch Gary, right? So Gary's partner came in and told him about all the charges that they are potentially facing. Like, it's more, they wire fraud, tax fraud, all kind of fraud. So they have a lot more charges pending against them. On top of that, Gary's watching the news, and he heard the report that the young lady that he hired to say that she had the inappropriate relationship with Jordan, she's recanted and said that it wasn't true. So now he believes that it was Andy. I was like, you think that it was Andy, but like I said plenty of times before, it was a plot. It was a hole in that whole situation, right? It was a hole in it. But hey, it is what it is. Because if there was no report and anything of that nature, then I don't know what Gary, was Gary planning on doctoring a police report, and if they had an inappropriate relationship, at some point, somebody would have known. But okay, I guess Gary didn't think that through. So now Gary has it out for one of them bitches. And I was like, which bitch you talking about, right? Like, which bitch are you talking about? And so next week's episode, we're going to see as Penelope is going to ask him about his high school sweetheart. I was like, oh my God, girl, why would you do something so idiotic and stupid? I was like, Penelope, girl, I don't think we're going to see you ever again. I really don't think we're going to ever see Penelope again. But hey, you guys, that is the episode. Please let me know what you guys thought about it down in the comment section below. Subscribe to the channel, turn on your post notifications, and also share the video. You guys, and until the next time, stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves, you guys. Wash your hands, be blessed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.